The Power of Becoming Your Own Boss. Lessons from Natasha Henderson. What would happen if the safety net you've been relying on suddenly disappeared? Your job, your steady paycheck, the routine you've built your life around, gone. For most of us, that thought triggers an immediate panic response. Heart racing, palm sweating, mind racing through worst case scenarios. But what if I told you that the greatest freedom lies on the other side of that fear? That the path to true empowerment, especially for communities that have historically been marginalized, begins when we step away from dependency and into ownership. Recently, I had the profound privilege of interviewing Natasha Henderson, a visionary whose insights on entrepreneurship, wealth building, and community empowerment have transformed countless lives. Her work illuminates how economic self determination isn't just about individual success, it's about healing generational wounds and creating lasting change. Natasha isn't just talking about financial independence, she's architecting a movement that's reshaping how marginalized communities view wealth, power, and possibility. Her brilliance lies not just in her business acumen, but in her ability to translate complex economic principles into actionable steps that anyone can take. The wisdom Natasha Henderson shared resonated deeply with the mission of our Soft Girl Era podcast, helping high achieving Black women transition from constant grinding to finally grounding themselves in joy, peace, and self prioritization. Because becoming your own boss isn't just about making money, it's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and ultimately your life. Let's be honest, we live in a world that wasn't designed for everyone to thrive equally. The playing field has never been level, but that doesn't mean we can't change the game entirely. When I think about economic empowerment, I'm reminded of Natasha Gabrieli's journey. Here's a Black woman who faced childhood trauma and the double challenge of being underrepresented in her field. The traditional path would have been to find security in a corporate job, keep her head down, and be grateful for whatever opportunities came her way. Instead, she chose ownership. She built a brand centered on diversity and inclusion, becoming not just an entrepreneur, but a digital nomad who defied every expectation society had placed on her. What makes her story particularly powerful is how she transformed her personal pain into purpose. The very experiences that might have broken someone else became her fuel, her driving force. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that your work isn't just paying bills, it's healing wounds that go back generations. That's the reality Natasha created for herself. She didn't just build a business, she built a platform that amplifies voices too often silenced. She didn't just create a job for herself, she created a movement that's changing how we think about work, worth, and who deserves to thrive. And here's the beautiful part, she didn't climb the ladder and pull it up behind her. She created opportunities for others by hiring and training people to work from home, extending the freedom she'd found to her community. When she started hiring team members, she specifically sought out people who needed flexible arrangements: parents, caregivers, individuals with health challenges, people the traditional workplace often penalizes or excludes entirely. That's what true empowerment looks like. Not just breaking through the ceiling yourself, but creating new doors for others to walk through. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's a nice story, but it's not realistic for me. I don't have the resources, the connections, the privilege. I understand that hesitation, really, I do. But let me share something powerful that Natasha Henderson emphasized in our conversation. Becoming your own boss doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job tomorrow and launching $1 million business. It means taking ownership of your economic future one decision at a time. Maybe it starts with a side hustle that generates an extra $500 a month. Maybe it's investing a small portion of each paycheck into assets that will grow over time. Maybe it's simply developing a skill that no one can take away from you. The point isn't the scale, it's the mindset shift from waiting for opportunity to creating it. This brings me to the second crucial insight from my conversation with Natasha Henderson. Building generational wealth is within reach for all of us. For too many communities, especially Black and Brown communities, wealth has been something that happens to other people, something we observe but don't participate in. The statistics are sobering. The racial wealth gap in America means that for every dollar of wealth held by the average white family, Black families hold just pennies. But statistics don't have to define our future. Consider the story of Walker's Legacy, an organization founded by Natalie Madeira Cofield, named after Madam C.J. Walker, the first female self made millionaire in America who happened to be a Black woman born to formerly enslaved parents. This organization has empowered thousands of women of color to launch and scale businesses. What makes Walker's legacy extraordinary isn't just its mission, it's its methodology. They understand that entrepreneurship isn't one size fits all. They recognize that women of color face unique challenges that require specialized support. So they've created an ecosystem where women can access not just capital, but confidence, not just resources, but relationships. These women face significant barriers, limited access to capital, few mentors who look like them, professional networks that weren't designed with them in mind. Yet, through education, connection, and resources specifically tailored to their needs, they're building businesses that generate wealth, not just for themselves, but for their families and communities. This isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary. Because when we talk about generational wealth, we're talking about breaking cycles of economic insecurity that have persisted for centuries. We're talking about children who grow up seeing entrepreneurship as a viable path. We're talking about families who can weather financial storms without losing everything. We're talking about freedom, and that freedom extends beyond material resources. It's the freedom to make choices based on what brings you joy rather than what pays the bills. The freedom to say no to environments that diminish your spirit. The freedom to create work that aligns with your values. In the language of our Soft Girl Era podcast, it's about dropping the superwoman cape, that exhausting expectation that we must constantly grind, constantly prove ourselves worthy, constantly sacrifice our well being on the altar of productivity. Becoming your own boss means writing your own rules about what success looks like. It means defining strength not as endurance of hardship, but as the courage to prioritize your peace. This brings me to perhaps the most powerful insight from my conversation with Natasha Henderson. Empowering others is essential to collective progress. There's a harmful myth in entrepreneurship, the self made success story. The lone genius who, through sheer force of will and talent, creates something extraordinary. But that narrative isn't just incomplete, it's damaging because no one succeeds entirely on their own. And perpetuating that myth keeps us isolated when we should be connected. True empowerment is always communal. It recognizes that my success is tied to yours, that lifting as we climb isn't just a nice sentiment, it's a practical strategy for sustainable change. Look at Greenwood Bank, co founded by entrepreneurs including Michael Render, better known as Killer Mike, named after the prosperous Black Wall Street in Tulsa that was destroyed in a racist massacre. This digital banking platform focuses specifically on supporting Black and Latino communities. Within days of launching, thousands of accounts were opened with millions in deposits, a powerful demonstration of the hunger for financial tools designed with underserved communities in mind. But Greenwood goes beyond transactions. It provides financial literacy resources and small business loans tailored to communities that have historically been denied access to capital. What makes Greenwood particularly significant is its connection to history. By naming the bank after the Greenwood District, once known as Black Wall Street, before it was decimated in one of America's worst incidents of racial violence, the founders are reclaiming that legacy. They're saying what was destroyed can be rebuilt, what was taken can be reclaimed, the prosperity that was violently interrupted can be reestablished. This is what it means to empower others, to recognize systemic barriers and actively work to dismantle them, to create institutions that serve those who have been overlooked, to understand that economic justice isn't about charity, it's about creating systems where everyone can participate fully. As Natasha Henderson emphasized in our conversation, when you support, mentor, and uplift others in your community, you create a ripple effect that strengthens everyone's potential. This isn't just idealism, it's practical wisdom because none of us can truly thrive in isolation. The entrepreneur needs customers, the investor needs growing businesses, the mentor needs fresh perspectives from those they guide. We are, whether we acknowledge it or not, deeply interconnected. So, what does all this mean for you sitting here today? It means you have more power than you realize to shape your economic future. It means the barriers you face, while real and significant, are not insurmountable. It means you don't have to choose between personal success and community uplift. The most sustainable path forward includes both. I want to challenge you today, not with a gentle nudge, but with an urgent call to action. The world doesn't need more people playing small, waiting for permission, or hoping things will change. The world needs you to claim your economic power, not someday, but now. Take one bold step toward becoming your own boss this week. Not next month, not when you feel ready, but this week. Because readiness is a myth that keeps us paralyzed. Start that business, invest in that skill, mentor that person who reminds you of your younger self, create that product, write that business plan, have that uncomfortable conversation with yourself about what's really holding you back. And when doubt creeps in, as it inevitably will, remember Natasha Gabrieli, who transformed trauma into triumph. Remember the thousands of women supported by Walker's legacy who are rewriting economic narratives. Remember the founders of Greenwood Bank who are rebuilding what was destroyed. Remember that you stand on the shoulders of ancestors who survived unimaginable hardship so that you could do more than just survive, so that you could thrive. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. The question is, what will the world miss out on if you don't take the leap? Your economic liberation isn't just about you. It's about everyone your courage will inspire. It's about the doors your success will open for others. It's about the generational patterns your boldness will break. So I'm not asking you to consider becoming your own boss someday. I'm challenging you to begin that journey today because economic freedom isn't just your right, it's your responsibility, not just to yourself, but to all those who will follow in your footsteps. The time for waiting is over. The time for ownership is now.